When artistic vision collides with institutional racism, the results can destroy careers and bury masterpieces for decades. What you're about to discover is how Hollywood's most revolutionary Western was killed before it could change cinema history, a film so groundbreaking that it terrified an entire industry and revealed the ugly truth behind America's entertainment machine. This isn't just about a canceled movie. This is about how systemic racism destroys artistic excellence and prevents stories that could transform society from ever-reaching audiences who desperately need to see them. Subscribe now for more shocking stories where Hollywood's hidden racism destroyed artistic masterpieces. These revelations about buried films and silenced voices will change how you see every movie that was never made. What happens when two Hollywood legends create a Western so revolutionary that the entire entertainment industry conspires to destroy it before audiences can see what equality actually looks like on screen? In 1962, GlennFord and Sammy Davis Jr. were set to co-star in Thunder Ridge, the first Western in Hollywood history to feature black and white protagonists as equals, with no racial subplot, no stereotypes, and no apologies. The script was brilliant, the chemistry was perfect, and the message was powerful enough to change American cinema forever. Instead, it became the most expensive cover-up in entertainment history. January 1962. The entertainment industry was experiencing the subtle but undeniable changes that would eventually culminate in the Civil Rights Revolution, and forward-thinking producers were beginning to explore projects that reflected evolving social consciousness while maintaining commercial appeal. Samuel Goldwyn Jr., son of the legendary producer and an ambitious filmmaker determined to establish his own reputation for quality and innovation, had acquired a script that he believed could revolutionize the Western genre, while addressing racial themes in sophisticated ways that audiences were ready to embrace. Thunder Ridge was written by Dalton Trumbo, the Academy Award-winning screenwriter who had been blacklisted during the McCarthy era but was gradually returning to prominence with projects that combined entertainment value with social significance. Trumbo understood that the best way to change minds was through great storytelling rather than obvious preaching, recalled director John Sturges, who was initially approached to helm the project. He'd created characters who happened to be different races, but whose relationship was built on mutual respect, shared goals, and complementary skills rather than racial conflict. The script told the story of two gunfighters, one white, one black, who were forced to work together to defend a small town against a corrupt cattle baron and his army of hired killers. But unlike every previous Western that featured interracial partnerships, Thunder Ridge treated the two protagonists as absolute equals, with no mention of racial differences, no discussion of prejudice, and no suggestion that their partnership was unusual or noteworthy. The revolutionary aspect wasn't what the script said about race, it was what it didn't say, explained film historian Donald Bogle years later. For the first time in Hollywood history, a black character would be portrayed as simply a man with a gun, not a black man with a gun. Samuel Goldwyn Jr. recognized that the script's success would depend entirely on casting actors who could bring authenticity, chemistry, and star power to roles that would inevitably be scrutinized by audiences, critics, and industry executives looking for reasons to dismiss the project. For the white protagonist, Jake McCready, Goldwyn wanted an established Western star who could provide credibility and box office appeal while demonstrating that respected actors supported the film's integrationist message. GlennFord was the obvious choice. At 46, he was at the peak of his Western career, having starred in classics like 3:10 to Yuma and The Fastest Gun Alive, that established him as one of the genre's most reliable and respected performers. Glenn was perfect for the role because he was known for playing morally complex characters who did the right thing even when it was difficult. Goldwyn recalled in private notes that weren't published until after his death. Audiences trusted him to make good decisions, which meant they would accept his character's partnership with a black gunfighter as natural rather than forced. For the black protagonist, Marcus Freeman, Goldwyn needed an actor who could match Ford's screen presence, while bringing authenticity to a character that had no precedent in American cinema. Sammy Davis Jr. was a surprising but inspired choice. While known primarily as an entertainer rather than a dramatic actor, Sammy possessed the charisma, intelligence, and emotional range necessary to create a character who could stand as Ford's equal, without appearing either subservient or artificially elevated. Sammy had something that most actors lack: absolute confidence in his own worth as a human being, observed Goldwyn. He didn't need the script to prove he was equal to white characters, because he already knew he was equal to anyone. That confidence would translate into authentic screen presence. More importantly, Sammy's casting would demonstrate that the film was serious about its integrationist message, rather than simply using racial themes as a marketing gimmick to attract liberal audiences. When Goldwyn approached both actors with the script in February 1962, their responses revealed the project's potential for both artistic achievement and commercial success. GlennFord's reaction was immediately enthusiastic. "This is the Western I've been waiting to make my whole career," Ford told Goldwyn. "It's a great story that happens to feature characters of different races, rather than a racial story disguised as a Western." Ford understood that Thunder Ridge offered an opportunity to participate in cinema history while working with material that was dramatically superior to most Western scripts that relied on formulaic plots and stereotypical characters. Sammy's response was more cautious but ultimately even more committed. "I want to make sure we're creating art rather than propaganda," Sammy told Goldwyn. "If the script is good enough to stand on its own merits, then the racial integration becomes a natural part of great storytelling rather than the entire point." Both actors recognized that Thunder Ridge represented a chance to demonstrate that integrated entertainment could be both artistically excellent and commercially viable, potentially opening doors for future projects that featured diverse casts without making racial themes the central focus. Pre-production began in March 1962 with screenplay revisions that refined character development and strengthened the chemistry between the two protagonists while maintaining the script's revolutionary approach to racial integration. The rewrites were remarkable, recalled script supervisor Mary Keats. "Every draft made the characters more complex and their partnership more natural, while removing any dialogue that called attention to racial differences. It was integration through normalization rather than explanation." Director George Stevens, who had recently completed Giant and was eager to work with material that addressed social issues through compelling storytelling, agreed to helm the project after reading the revised script. Stevens brought prestige and credibility that would have made the film impossible to dismiss as exploitation or propaganda, noted film historian Peter Biskind. His involvement signaled that Thunder Ridge was serious cinema rather than a novelty act, but as word of the project began circulating through Hollywood's interconnected network of agents, executives, and industry insiders, the reaction revealed the depth of resistance to racial integration that existed within the entertainment establishment. "The response from major studios was immediate and unanimous," recalled Goldwyn's assistant Patricia Wells. "Every studio executive we approached loved the script and praised the casting, but they all found reasons why they couldn't finance or distribute the film." The rejections were carefully worded to avoid explicit racial objections, focusing instead on concerns about, quote, "market acceptance, regional distribution challenges, and audience readiness" that served as coded language for resistance to integrated entertainment. Studio executives were terrified of Southern theater owners who threatened to boycott any film that portrayed racial equality as normal, explained entertainment lawyer Sidney Korshak. The financial stakes were enormous because Southern markets represented a significant portion of total box office revenue. But the resistance went beyond economic calculations to include personal prejudices among industry leaders who were uncomfortable with entertainment that challenged existing social hierarchies. Many executives genuinely believed that integrated entertainment would harm the industry by alienating white audiences who weren't ready to see black and white actors as equals, observed civil rights historian Taylor Branch. They saw Thunder Ridge as dangerous social engineering disguised as entertainment. The campaign against Thunder Ridge escalated when details of the script were leaked to entertainment industry trade publications that portrayed the project as controversial and potentially damaging to the careers of everyone involved. The trades treated Thunder Ridge Like it was a risky political statement rather than a Western about two gunfighters, recalled Variety reporter Army Archerd. The coverage created an atmosphere of controversy that made financing and distribution increasingly difficult. More damaging were whisper campaigns that suggested the film was being produced by communist sympathizers who were using entertainment to promote un-American social integration that would damage traditional American values. The red baiting was subtle but effective, noted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo, who had experienced similar attacks during the McCarthy era. Nobody directly accused us of being communists, but the implication was that only subversives would make a film that portrayed racial equality as normal. The attacks intensified when conservative organizations began pressuring theater chains to refuse bookings for Thunder Ridge, even though the film hadn't been completed or even officially announced for production. Theater owners were getting letters threatening boycotts if they showed any film that promoted race mixing, recalled distribution executive Leo Jaffe. The pressure was coordinated and effective, making it virtually impossible to guarantee distribution even before the film existed. By June 1962, the combination of studio resistance, trade publication skepticism, and organized opposition had created an environment where Thunder Ridge could not be financed through normal Hollywood channels, despite the quality of the script and the star power of the cast. Samuel Goldwyn Jr.'s attempts to secure independent financing were complicated by insurance companies' refusal to provide completion bonds for a project they considered too controversial to guarantee commercial success. Insurance companies wouldn't bond the film because they saw racial integration as an unacceptable financial risk, explained independent producer Walter Mirisch. Without completion bonds, investors couldn't protect their investment, which made financing impossible. The final blow came when GlennFord's talent agency, William Morris, advised him to withdraw from the project to protect his career from association with controversial material that might damage his marketability for future Western roles. The agency told Glenn that making Thunder Ridge would brand him as a political actor who couldn't be trusted with mainstream entertainment, recalled Ford's manager Henry Wilson. They painted it as a choice between artistic integrity and career survival. Sammy faced similar pressure from his management team, who worried that association with a, quote, racial integration project would reinforce stereotypes about black entertainers being primarily concerned with civil rights issues rather than pure entertainment value. They told Sammy that Thunder Ridge would make him a message performer rather than an entertainer, which would limit his appeal to white audiences, remembered Sammy's agent William Morris Jr. It was a sophisticated form of career blackmail. In August 1962, Samuel Goldwyn Jr. officially announced the cancellation of Thunder Ridge, citing scheduling conflicts and creative differences that served as euphemisms for the industry-wide conspiracy that had killed the project. The cancellation was devastating for everyone involved, recalled director George Stevens. We had created something special that could have changed American cinema, but institutional racism proved stronger than artistic vision. The script for Thunder Ridge was quietly shelved, and copies were reportedly destroyed to prevent future attempts at production by independent filmmakers who might try to revive the project without major studio support. But in 1995, 33 years after the project's cancellation, a complete copy of the Thunder Ridge script was discovered in Dalton Trumbo's personal archives, providing evidence of what American cinema had lost when industry racism destroyed the film. Film scholars who analyzed the script concluded that Thunder Ridge represented a missed opportunity that could have accelerated social integration by decades through entertainment that normalized racial equality rather than making it controversial. Reading the script today, it's clear that Thunder Ridge was far superior to most westerns that actually got made during the 1960s, observed film critic Roger Ebert. It was killed not because it wasn't good enough, but because it was too good, too powerful, too revolutionary, too threatening to existing social hierarchies. In 2005, a private reading of Thunder Ridge was performed at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, with contemporary actors reading the Ford and Davis roles to demonstrate what audiences had been prevented from seeing. The reading was extraordinary, recalled Academy President Frank Pearson. You could feel the chemistry between the characters and the power of the story. It was heartbreaking to realize that this masterpiece had been buried for 4 decades. GlennFord, who attended the reading shortly before his death in 2006, reflected on the project that had represented the biggest lost opportunity of his career. "Thunder Ridge would have been my best Western," Ford said. "Not because it was about race, but because it was about 2 men who respected each other as equals. That's what made it dangerous to the industry, and what would have made it powerful for audiences." Sammy Davis Jr., who died in 1990, never saw the script's rediscovery, but had spoken about Thunder Ridge in later interviews as his greatest career disappointment. "We could have shown America what equality looked like," Sammy reflected in a 1987 interview. "Not through preaching or politics, but through great entertainment that happened to feature characters who saw each other as human beings rather than racial representatives." The story of Thunder Ridge demonstrates how institutional racism operates not just through direct discrimination, but through industry-wide conspiracy that kills projects before they can challenge existing social hierarchies. The film industry's response to Thunder Ridge revealed that Hollywood's liberalism was largely superficial, observed film historian Thomas Cripps. When faced with entertainment that could actually change minds, the industry chose profit and comfort over artistic courage. Today, Thunder Ridge is studied in film schools as an example of how great art can be destroyed by systematic prejudice that operates through economic pressure rather than direct censorship. The script remains unproduced, representing not just a lost film but a lost opportunity to demonstrate that racial integration could be portrayed as normal, natural, and dramatically compelling rather than controversial, forced, or politically motivated. Most importantly, Thunder Ridge proves that the entertainment industry's failure to address racism wasn't due to lack of quality material or audience readiness, but to institutional cowardice that prioritized existing power structures over artistic excellence and social progress. The Western that GlennFord and Sammy Davis Jr. never made together stands as a monument to the films that could have changed America, but were sacrificed to preserve the comfortable illusions that entertainment was separate from politics, and that art could exist without moral responsibility.